Hi folks, you're with Got That Funk. During most of the 80s, I referred to myself as a Christian, although really it was only the first sort of 2 or 3 years of the decade that I made any effort to go to church with any kind of regularity and fellowship afterwards and talk about scripture and, etc. And it was, I guess, in 1981, I had a couple of roommates who were both more devout Christians than I was, and they kept on trying to get me to go to this church called the Open Bible. It was a non-denominational church. And one day my roommate John mentioned to me that there was a prophet coming to the church and that he would be there for the week and be doing, they'd be open for evening services every night that week and then the Sunday service as well. So I was very skeptical. I'd only really been a Christian for about a year, and the idea that there could be such a thing as a prophet, i.e., someone who is in direct intuitional contact with the divine, seemed to me to be a stretch. But my mind hoping to be opened, I decided to go and see for myself. Interestingly, the um, the first time I saw the prophet twice. The first time I saw him, he actually chose my roommate John out of the audience to stand up, and he told John all about his life. He told John about what his problems were, told John about his childhood, told John quite a few things. Some of those things were very, very personal, and because John was my roommate, I was aware of some of the facts, and I knew that they were true. Um, what I couldn't comprehend was how the preacher, this guy who said he was a prophet, um, how he could know those things about John. And so the following Sunday, I was at the church. We had the normal church service, and then afterwards there was an extended bit where the prophet came and did a few more, people who he would pick out of the congregation and tell them about themselves and what God planned for them and what God wanted them to do with themselves. And there was a moment there where he asked us all to sort of bow our heads and close our eyes, and he said a prayer for the whole congregation, whatever, and during which time he sort of came out amongst us. Now, because I am who I am, and I'm, kind of skeptical, and I don't like to conform when people tell me to do something, I didn't close my eyes or put my head down. I just sort of sat there um, with a modest smile on my face, I suppose. And the prophet comes out into the congregation, saw that I was the only person in the whole church with my head not bowed, and he came over to me. And normally, when he picks someone to prophesy to, he grabs your hand and then you stand up, and then uh, he put his hand on your shoulder or whatever and would start to tell you about yourself. Well, he came over to me in the congregation, reached out to take my hand. I put my hand up like this, and he grabbed my hand, and I didn't stand up. And he looked at me, and he didn't smile with his lips, but a smile went across the rest of his face. And he's like, yours is the most beautiful spirit. And then he kept on walking, and he chose other people and talked to them. Well, now that I'm older and a bit more wise, I know 1000% for sure this man was not a prophet. He was an expert at what is called dry reading or cold reading. And, if anybody who's ever seen Darren Brown's TV shows will know what cold reading is. And some people are quite adept at it. Just from the expression you've got on your face, you give away an awful lot to someone who knows how to cold read. So anyway, so that was my first experience with someone who purported to be a holy person. Um, my second one was quite a long time after that. I think it was the year 2000, but it might have been 1999. I was living up in Dorset, and me and my girlfriend at the time um, were students of Buddhism. And the number two man to the Dalai Lama, I think his title is the Tatan Sutan Ling or something like that. I can't really remember what his title was. But anyway, he came to Bournemouth to meet the local groups of Buddhists and to give a little speech and whatever. And when he came out onto the stage, um, I've never seen anything like it. I'm not for one moment suggesting that this man glowed with a luminescence, because he didn't. That's preposterous. But all I can tell you was there was like this little bubble around him. It was invisible, but he seemed to have this like bubble of calm around him that just seemed quite impenetrable. And I perceived this from a very, very, I must have been 60 or 70 rows away from the stage. Um, and obviously, the whole thing is probably in my head. But at the same time, I've never seen anybody like that. I've never seen anybody who had this sort of aura of peace, which was so profound you could see it from a distance. And it wasn't just the aura that he seemed to project. I mean, all of his movements, the way he moved his hands, the way he turned his head, everything about him was just so without stress. It was so calm and peaceful, and it was amazing. Anyway, so I don't know if he counts as a holy man or not, but it was certainly a moving experience. The one person that I've ever seen in my life was Amma, and I personally consider Amma to be a saint. Now, I don't believe in saints in the sense that Christians mean it when they say that someone has been you know gifted by God, because obviously I don't believe in God, so I don't mean saint in that sort of sense. But Amma, for those of you who don't know, I'll leave a link in the sidebar. Um, Amma is in her late 50s, I think, and she has spent the past 40 years or so going around the world hugging people. Amma has literally hugged more than 30 million people. And she has a charitable foundation, and she spends her entire life um, giving love to people, sometimes through hugs and sometimes through her charitable foundation. She builds hospitals and housing for poor people in India and elsewhere. She helped victims of Katrina. She helped victims of the tsunami and so on. And Amma gives her love in the form of a hug to anyone and everyone. She doesn't care if you're old or young or fat or skinny, or if you're a criminal, or if you're who you are, what you look like, does not matter to Amma. She gives love to everyone equally. It's an amazing thing. Now, why do I call Amma a saint? Well, partly because of the things that she does with her life and with her time. I think she's one of the most virtuous people I've ever encountered. But I was there several hours early because I wanted to get my hug, and then get on with the rest of my day. I still had to wait for 3 effing hours. But anyway, so I was there when Amma and her entourage arrived. And when they came in, it was at, I can't remember the name of the palace in London. But she came into the palace, and there was devotees on either side of the aisle. She was walking down, and Alma had this smile on her face. That was a smile unlike anything I've ever seen. That was, what, November, I guess, of 2007. So I would have been 45, and I find it difficult and humbling to consider, but this is my true opinion. Until I saw Alma that day, I'm not sure if I've ever, ever, ever seen anyone, ever, who was truly, truly happy. But Alma's fucking happy, man. I mean, she has just got this smile that beams happiness. And she gets that way because she does nothing with her time except for give love to people. That's what she does. Alma loves people. And the reward she gets for that is a happiness which is so profound. You have to see Alma's face for yourself to understand what I'm talking about. And it made me realize that despite the fact I've been in good moods and had plenty of happy moments in my life, that the real depth of happiness is something I still have to achieve. And I'm not likely to hug 30 million people in order to get there, so I'm at a bit of a loss as to what the best means to achieve that happiness might be. Got a couple ideas. Anyway, so charlatans, holy men, saints, that's my story. This has got that funk. May all your ups and downs be ups. Bye.